I might catch some flack for saying this, but Ireland was one of the great disappointments of my trip. That's not to say that it was bad, I have plenty of fond memories of my time there, but before I left I'd had my parents and friends all telling me how great it was to visit, and my own experiences were far different. Simply put, I don't think Ireland is a great country to motorbike through. Let's do some point-wise comparisons to explain what I mean. The Irish lived up to their reputation for being friendly and kind to strangers, but none of those connections lasted, whereas I still speak to people I met in Scotland. Ireland does edge it out as far as the food is concerned. I had some really nice fish pies, and good food was a large part of what I was looking for on my trip. But this is still a marginal advantage. For the scenery, Scotland wins hands down. Ireland has some promising moments, and it's definitely more lush, but Scotland was consistently stunning, there's no contest. I know the weather depends on the season, but Scotland was warmer and sunnier. I especially dislike the Irish mist, which makes everything cold and damp without quite raining properly. I found the Irish roads to be pretty consistently bumpy and potholy, even along ostensibly popular scenic routes. The speed limits can be painfully slow, and there are few to no overtaking opportunities, so I found Scotland's roads to be much better. And finally, the drivers. Scotland again wins this one no contest. I found the drivers to be attentive and courteous, with slow drivers consistently moving over to let you by. In Ireland, I found people drove 20 kilometers an hour, or in one case 40 kilometers an hour, below the limit for no particular reason, and just don't seem to pay nearly as much attention to their surroundings. Like the person who very nearly reversed into me. Setting aside my feelings about Ireland as a whole, this day was one of my more touristy days. I got caught behind Sunday drivers on the Blackhead, one of the scenic roads I'd been looking forward to, stopped off at the Dueling Cave to see the largest free-hanging stalactite in Europe, and passed by the cliffs of Moher. That's right, I completely ignored one of the most famous landmarks in the country, because it was absolutely heaving with people, and at that point in the day I really just wanted to get out of the area to somewhere a little bit quieter. I did make a friend at Dueling Caves though. He came up to say hello as I was leaving, so I gave him a few pats before carrying on my way. I present to you Exhibit A of Irish drivers. I was able to see them relatively clearly over the fence, which is why I started braking before they even started pulling away, but it still irritated the hell out of me to be cut off like that. And the little indicator to let me know, oh, you go ahead, feels just insulting, because after cutting me off there is no way I would stay behind them. And then Exhibit B. Yes, the road is narrow. Yes, the oncoming car has a trailer. No, I don't think we need to almost stop. I did have one more memorable encounter in the afternoon. We have stopped off for lunch again in Milltown, I think. Did the Dueling Cave today, which was quite nice. But the way out was past the cliffs of Moher, and that was absolutely horrific. The traffic was awful, too slow, too many people. I just gave the cliffs of Moher a full skip. Not too bothered about them, really. But yeah, I made friends with a cat. It's called Blackie, and it's just very friendly. Came up, screamed at me, demanded attention, walked off, trotted alongside while I was walking away. Very cute cat. At the end of this day, I camped out at a site in Tralee before heading out to Dingle the next morning. Dingle is a peninsula on the west coast that has some really scenic roads. I arrived through the Conor Pass, one of the few roads that I enjoyed enough to turn around and ride twice, before meandering around the coast. Dingle was incredibly busy, although my lunch at a chippy, smoked cod and chips, was really nice. But I didn't love the moment when somebody nearly reversed over me. You may be wondering how that happened. Let me show you. I'd stopped to take some photos and pulled away behind two cars. Just around the corner, a bus was coming the opposite direction. The lead car did the right thing. They continued up a little, pulling over where the shoulder was a little wider. The trailing car did not. They stopped pretty much on the spot, forcing me to slam on my brakes and blocking off a narrower section of the road. Then, instead of pulling forward to clear the road, they decided to reverse, right toward me. While I'm glad they eventually noticed me and stopped in time, the damage is already done. Between this and my experiences the day previous, my opinion of Irish drivers reached rock bottom. And as soon as the way was clear, I nipped in front of the lead car as well. Despite my frustration, and rewatching the footage has me irritated all over again, I really appreciate my CBR's ability to accelerate on a dime. Because other drivers are one of the biggest hazards on the road, leaving them behind is often the best way to keep yourself safe. Before anyone comes after me calling me an aggressive knobhead or anything, have a look at this clip. When I was riding around the Dunmore Head, there was nobody in front of me, and I was still going a reasonable speed. I slow down for blind corners and move over for oncoming traffic. It's not like I'm expecting everyone to yield to me all the time. You have to bear in mind that by and large the clips that get uploaded are the exceptions, the best and the worst moments. I'll admit I do like my acceleration, and I drive a little faster than most other drivers. But I was overtaken myself plenty of times, and moved over to let other people pass reasonably often as well. I personally care less about the exact speed someone drives as their level of awareness. Sometimes you do have to go slowly if the road and weather conditions aren't great, but it's frustrating when people go slowly without a clear reason. Especially since people with that level of awareness also tend not to notice the queues of traffic piling up behind them. But most of the time, I overtook those people without any drama. It's only the ones who cut me off or reversed into me that are genuinely problematic. Anyway, I found it really interesting that there was a ford here in the Dunmore Head, even if it was shallow. On my way down into Dingle, there was a lot of traffic on the Conor Pass, but when I went back later that afternoon, it was much less busy. This gave me a clear shot through this nice slalom, as well as the way down on the other side. While we appreciate how nice this road was, I also wanted to play back my thoughts from the 26th.
Today is another nice morning. I got up nice and early. It's not even 8 o'clock yet, but I'm just setting up, packing up to leave. I don't think it'll be a long day necessarily. It probably will be, but, you know, I'm not aiming on a particularly long day.
Spoiler alert, it was a very long day, although I did have this thought.
It's funny, I've just been thinking, if you were to ask me what I'd miss most about home, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the last thing you'd expect, which is just clean hands. I feel like I'm just constantly messing with the bike and getting grime on and under my fingernails. It's so nice just waking up in the morning and having clean, nice hands. And that's something which I hadn't thought I'd miss. I thought it would be like my friends, or the magic, or the D&D, or the computer, but no. Just the small comforts that we take for granted.
I left the hostel around 9 in the morning, and by 7 at night I was in this situation.
I've made it to the Tarbert Killarney ferry, so that's about all I'd planned to do tomorrow by the end of today. So that's good progress. The weather has been getting steadily just colder and cloudier, and I don't love that. It's also nearly 7, or it is 7 now. I still have no idea where I'm staying tonight. So it may be that I'll just rock up to a campsite at 9, pass out, wake up in the morning, and on I go.
Yep. Despite my previous optimism about taking it easy, I'd been on the road for 10 hours and hadn't thought about where to stay. But I did eventually find a good place to stop.
It is 20 past 8. I just made it to Charlie, the campsite. It's getting late, it's getting cold. I just want to get somewhere. So this will do for now. I'm a full day ahead of schedule. The tent was fine. Apparently the bigger issue was just finding a spot for the bike. And it's just going to be behind a kiosk, out of sight.
Despite my exhaustion, I found the time to really reflect on the European experience that evening. This one's a bit less clean, as I was dictating over dinner.
I don't mind this whole European notion of camping, to be honest. It's a lot more relaxed than the Canadian one. Or maybe it's just a lot more relaxed than the one that Anthony does. And that I was inadvertently roped into. Ireland has been bug-free thus far, more or less. It's about all we can hope for, really. I do think about 5 hours of riding is pushing it. 8 hours on the go is probably solid. Of that 8 hours, about half of it spent resting and wandering around and stopping for photos and things. That last hour or so that I did was kind of miserable. We're figuring it out as we go.
For the rest of the afternoon on the 27th, I rode east from Dingle to stay in Killarney for the evening. There had just been a big football match that afternoon between Killarney and Donegal, so the whole town was in party mode. I'd planned to watch the Euro 2025 final that evening, but it took me about half an hour to find a pub playing it. Everywhere else was playing the highlights of the local match instead. This moment really encapsulates my frustrations with the Irish roads. I'd been cruising along some lovely bends when there were suddenly bumps galore, forcing me to brake hard if I wanted to stay upright. The last interesting thing that happened to me was running into this cow crossing. I'd never seen one of them in use before.